How's it going, my RWBY friends? I just finished watching Volume 6, Chapter 10, and though this was a short episode, it was certainly a good episode. I hope you guys enjoyed this one too. It did have a few plot holes, but overall I think it was a good episode, aside from, again, the shortness of it. But I'll talk about the highlights, and I'll talk about the small issues I had with it all right now. Let's take it from chronological order, though, right from the top. The scene opening with the Argus military base. So at the very beginning of this episode, the very, very beginning, we have an interesting camera angle that kind of like pans on the base. And we see this female Argus soldier, Atlas soldier, walking by. And just gotta say, getting that Neo vibes from her a little bit. I don't know all the merit there would be for Neo to be on the base in disguise. But it's possible. It's definitely possible. It's interesting that they specifically go out of their way to show us this female guard. And they do kind of give her Neo's facial shape a little bit. And we have seen Neo imitate guards in the past. So I would say it's definitely possible that this female guard ends up being Neo. Again, I'm not sure entirely what the merit of that would be. But just keep in mind it's possible. They went out of their way to show us this guard. And again, I think Neo has imitated a guard before. And it kind of had that Neo vibe going on. So just keep that in mind. Anyways, so it looks like they are going with Jean's plan of stealing the airship to get to Atlas. I mean, surely nothing will go wrong with stealing from Atlas to get to Atlas, right? Of course, things already go wrong this episode. But before we get into all that, let me mention one of the little nitpicks I had, or one of the little complaints I had about this episode. Because it happens right now. We see Saffron and the baby. Saffron and the baby. What was the baby's name again? Adrian, I think. So you got Saffron and Adrian walking Weiss on the base to her ship. And I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, like, why is Saffron there? How did she get let on the base? They were so strict about only letting Weiss on the base. So how is Saffron and Adrian, this baby, suddenly okay to be there? I mean, it's not like... It didn't seem like they were there for any specific reason to help Weiss. Like, they weren't bringing her extra luggage or anything. I guess the reason was, oh, the baby's getting sad that you're leaving, but then they tell Weiss to hurry up. But if the baby's going to get sad to see Weiss leaving, why did you bring the baby to the base to see Weiss leaving to begin with? That part just makes no sense to me. Yeah, Tara works on the satellite, but the satellite is proven this episode to not even be on the Argus base. So that's something that I talked about in like a review 2 or 3 episodes ago. When we first got introduced to Saffron and Tara was talking about how she's, worked on the satellites before and how the Argus one is close to the civilian one, so they blame her when problems arise. And some people, not everyone, but some people were assuming that automatically meant that that Tara had access to the Argus base. And I just wanted to clarify then that that's not true because we didn't know where the satellite was. So I personally liked to see in this episode that it was confirmed that the satellite array was not even close to the Argus base. It was like outside of the walls a little bit even, it looked like. Though that part I'm not 100% sure about, but I think it was outside the walls. But that's a little bit sketchy to have the satellite array outside the walls, not protected as well. But there was guards there, so I guess it was protected. But anyways, you guys know what I mean. So aside from that, the rest of the scene, the base scene, walking to the airship with Weiss, her legs were looking on point, guys. They had the same appearance, but like elongated a little bit. You know how I am about them long legs, man. Like freaking Weiss and Cinder and Crow. Oh man, Crow. No, okay, I'm kidding. I'm not kidding. Crow does have good legs, but I don't roll that way. So I'm joking a little bit, guys. It's all good though. So it was funny that we found out that Maria was actually smuggled inside the suitcase. Maria continues to be a highlight of the series. But that's all for this scene. So let's move on to the next one with RWBY and Co. So I liked the scene going on between Yang and Blake. It was pretty cute. I'm going to be honest. I almost got a little upset at Yang. Because Blake said that sneaking around wasn't really Yang's strong suit. Which is not like anything rude to say at all. But like Yang immediately starts crossing her arms and like having a pout on her face. Like, dude, you can't say anything right to this girl. Like, literally, Blake, this is like 2 times now that recently kind of Blake has said something that like pissed Yang off. But to be fair to Yang, I'm not mad at her. It did end on the smile. Like, Yang had a nice smile. Like, she was just kind of playing around. And Blake had a nice smile afterwards. So it's all good. I'm not hating on Yang for this one. I almost did a little bit. But with the way it all turned out, like, I think Yang was kind of joking. Like, she didn't really care. I don't think she really cared about being called not sneaky. She only kind of acted like she cared for a second because she wanted to be like, oh, Blake, don't you call me that. Like, I'm gonna get you back for that. You know what I mean? That's kind of like the smile I got from Yang. And I'm all for seeing freaking Yang get Blake back. Like, what would she do? Oh man, like, there's so many things, bro. Get a catnip ball, or just kind of like pull her hair. No, I'm kidding. Okay, it's messed up. I'm just kidding around, guys. I'm sorry. Hey, you guys know I like freaking Bumblebee and I like Blackstone. I like both of them. So, I mean, if we're gonna have a little bit of Bumblebee talk right now, why not? Okay, it is a good chemistry, man. It's a good chemistry. So, just to reiterate, I actually think it was good chemistry between Yang and Blake here. I am not hating on Yang. I think it actually worked out pretty funny and it was cute. So, there we go. I just want to reiterate, I'm not hating on Yang. The scene, I liked it. Okay, I liked it. It was good. So then we start getting Crow. Again, Crow's worrying about like the younger people in the group. You can see this before even the whole dialogue exchange happens because that comes in the next scene with RWBY and Co. But already Crow's kind of like distancing himself. He's by the trees, just kind of like not looking so happy with the scenario. And I don't blame him, man. He's worried about the younger people in the group, as we've talked about already. But let's move on for now because the next scene is Weiss and Maria actually taking off flying. Weiss had some really amazing expressions this episode, to be honest. Nice legs in the beginning, nice expressions in the air. Weiss, oof, reminded me why I used to have her as like my second best girl. And I don't know, man, she could easily get there again. Neo is obviously in first. For me personally, Blake is now second for me. But Weiss, man, she could easily override Blake. And yeah, it was nice. The Maria I thing was funny when she got like the USB, plugged it in there. Like, that was so convenient. I'm like, dude, what? Like, I don't know. That's some of the problems I had this episode. Like, the episode was super short. 13 minutes long, but the intro is like 2 minutes long and the outro is like a minute long. So really, this episode was like 10 minutes long, honestly. So I didn't like the short length of this episode. And then there was just so many convenient things, like Maria conveniently like unplugging this random USB thing and suddenly like being able to put it in her eyes and like have the access to the information that's being, you know, collected from the ship. Like, okay, Saffron and Adrian conveniently being like able to be allowed on the base. Like, okay. And to be honest, if Saffron and Adrian weren't even on the base, it wouldn't have really changed anything. Like, the guards would have had a little bit comedic relief like removed from them about like entertaining the baby. I mean, that's really it, though. I think maybe they should have went without Saffron and Adrian on there because it just caused inconsistencies, and the only gain from it was some comedic relief from the guards. Yeah, and the baby kind of distracting them with the whining and stuff, but that, I don't know, it just wasn't necessary, I don't think. I think they could have done without it. And then Adam, like, conveniently being at the base. We'll talk about that in a second. So, like, there was definitely some things about this episode that were a little shady, but overall, I think it was a good episode, though. The cons aside, the pros outweighed the cons, in my opinion. Anyways, where do we leave off? I'm looking here. So RWBY, oh yeah. So Weiss and Maria are flying. That's the scene. Pretty much ends there. It's divided into two parts with Weiss and Maria flying, and the first part's kind of short. So we get back to RWBY and Co, and that's when we find out that Blake is MIA. So pretty much everyone I think is assuming that yeah, probably Adam is involved, especially with the recent information that was leaked a few days ago about Adam and under his mask. I'm not going to talk about that here because I don't want to spoil people who don't want to know. But yeah, there was that Adam news a few days ago. So a lot of people were thinking Adam would be coming up soon, and indeed, he came this episode. Crow knows something wasn't right. Weiss's communications start going away. She leaves the local comms. So I thought this was nice flavor. On the scroll, it showed Weiss's like signal getting weaker and weaker. Because again, they want to reiterate the fact that though local communications work, the CCT network as a whole is down. So if you go out of the range, you're going to lose communications. So this lack of communication has been screwing things up for the good guys, like literally all volume. And it's been screwing them up actually since Volume 4. So Volume 5, things have been screwed up. Volume 6, things have been screwed up. It just feels even heavier in Volume 6 because we're actually like traveling around and the group's been separated and stuff like that, and they can't get a hold of each other. So I think they've been doing a good job of like writing this communication stuff because they really are driving that point home that yeah, it's freaking complicating things and it's making a lot of problems for our characters. But that's enough of the RWBY and Co scene. Now we get back to Weiss and Maria flying again. So friggin' Maria says in like Argus or Atlas military jargon, "This is Manta 5-1. Feel free to gaff off, though we're gonna scrub due to the FOD, but we are back up in green across the board." Like what? Argus base, this is Manta 5-1. Feel free to gaff off. Thought we were gonna scrub due to the FOD, but we are back up in green across the board. Like Manta 5-1, like a freaking manta ray or something. Like Manta 5-1. Feel free to. What is gaff off? Isn't that like joking around? Like feel free to gaff off. Like hold on, I'm gonna look that up right now. What does gaff mean, dude? A stick with gaff rig is a sailing rig. What does gaff off mean though? Blow off a person or task. A verb, transitive, to blow off a person or task. I told Mac to change that tire, but he gaffed me off. That's what. Okay, so that's what I thought it meant. Kind of like telling him to go away. So like, Manta51, feel free to gaff off. Thought we were gonna scrub. Is that a saying too? I don't think so. Thought we were gonna scrub. No, okay. Thought we were gonna scrub due to the FOD. What the frick? Foreign object damage? What alien? What the frick? Yo, this is some weird stuff coming up. Okay, I don't even know what Maria was trying to say there. And then they say the jargon was fine, but our pilots are not elderly women. And then friggin' Maria's like, yeah, I guess they're right. I am an elderly woman. Like, why are you letting me even fly this thing? Like, dude, it was so funny. Maria's scenes are amazing. Yeah, I love that part. Hey, and then I made that tweet after this episode as a joke saying that we should all ship Weiss and Maria as the new OTP. And yo, we got 10 likes on that already. So, I mean, I think some people agree with me. And I'm kidding around, but also not. Hey, I mean, I would actually be down to see that ship. I don't know about you guys, but I think Weiss and Maria have some pretty hilarious interactions, man. And yeah, there's like a 70-year difference there. What's 70 years, guys? Hey, it's just a number at the end of the day. Weiss is over 18. Maria's over 18. It doesn't matter if she's 19 and she's 79, dude. It doesn't matter. It's all just objective, man. They're having a good time. Jacques Cheny would probably approve this. And okay, I'm taking this way too far. Let's move on. Okay, so the next scene, we go back to RWBY and Co. And we have an amazing rant from Crow. So I talked about this last episode as well, about Crow and his guilt, why he didn't like Jean's plan. And that really is the fact that he does feel responsible for these younger people. You know, he is the most experienced huntsman out of all of them, you know, save for Maria. And I think we can say Maria is a huntsman loosely because, yeah, she passed the test, but she never really, like, went to an academy and trained at an academy and all that. So she's, like, officially she's a huntress, yeah, but she's missed out on a lot of what makes a huntress a huntress. She also never, like, went on missions and stuff like that. Kind of feels like she just did her own thing. So, yeah, I would say Crow is, like, technically the most experienced huntsman out of the group. Maria, you could argue, is the most experienced person in general out of the group. But I would say Crow is the most experienced official huntsman out of the group. So he feels responsible for leading the kids. And even if someone makes an argument that Maria is technically a more experienced huntsman than Crow, if someone counter arguments that, I would say, well, Crow still feels responsible for the younger people in the group because he knows them better. Like, Maria just suddenly got there this volume. Crow was known these, like, younger people more sentimentally, Yang and RWBY especially, and then being that RWBY's, you know, team is there, he feels responsible for that, and then Juniper is there to an extent as well, and he doesn't feel as responsible for them as RWBY, but still, he's responsible for them in a way. So I could definitely understand why Crow doesn't want them to, like, get in all this trouble stealing from Atlas and potentially getting imprisoned or even worse. He just feels responsible for all that, man. So we have Crow, like, really ranting this scene, saying, like, what am I doing? Like, I shouldn't, like, Ozpin and I, like, really got you guys in this huge mess. Like, why are we doing, like, why are we bringing you all into this? This was a mistake. So I really like Crow saying that, man. It definitely felt genuine, and you really felt bad for him, honestly, because at the end of the day, he is just worried about other people, man. He's worried about other people getting hurt. And this is why some of you guys have, like, said to me, why don't you you call out Jean and Yang for bringing the group down, but you haven't called out Crow? Which, okay, first of all, I have called out Crow a few times throughout Volume 6, but the big difference is this, and what I'm about to say is proven in what Crow said this episode. The big difference is that Yang and Jean are blaming other people for their anger, and Crow is just blaming himself. That's all I wanted from Jean. I wanted to see him own up to his mistakes and stop blaming other people, and so he can move forward. And actually, last episode, Jean did that. So Jean won a lot of points with me. Like, Jean is getting on my good side now, guys. You know, he's not entirely on my good side yet, but he won a lot of points last episode because he finally did own up to the mistakes. He finally did start, like, blaming himself for it, and that's when Ren and Nora were like, look, Jean, this needs to stop. Because he went from blaming everyone else, he was really putting the blame on Crow and Ozpin a lot, then he started blaming himself. But the point is, he needs to just, like, let it go and just move forward. So that's why Ren and Nora said that. So yeah, that's the big difference, and that's proven this episode because Crow's just blaming himself. He's like, I did this, I shouldn't have let you guys do this plan, I shouldn't have brought you all involved, it's my fault, it's my semblance. So it's still unhealthy and not good to do that, but I have more respect for someone that blames themselves for mistakes that occurred than someone who just wants to blame other entities for the problems that are going on in their life. So that's the big difference there. And then I had we had a really awesome speech from RWBY. Again, I mean, I don't want to hear RWBY ranting, and she wasn't really ranting. I saw some people nitpicking the speech because they said that it sounded like RWBY was ranting. I don't know. That's not the impression I personally got. I really liked hearing RWBY say that we could still use Crow Bronwyn on our side. So yeah, I'm not talking about the whole speech. Like, I mean, I'm talking about the whole speech right now, yeah, but I'm not going to, like, quote the whole speech because it's a long one. But the part that really stuck out to me that I really liked was we could still use Crow Bronwyn on our side, because this whole volume, I've been saying I really want to see RWBY, like, freaking try to make Crow feel better. And that happened a little bit in the Brunswick camp when she's like, you know, she found Crow was drunk and all that. She's like, look, I'm here for you if you want to talk. Whatever she said, she gave him a hug. So that was really good. But she still didn't say, like, dude, you're Crow Bronwyn, snap out of it. Anything like that. Because he's being so hard on himself and he's saying that he's done nothing good for the world. All he needs to hear, specifically from RWBY, is like, dude, you have done a lot of good for the world. Look at, and then give some examples and say, like, this is because of what you've done. So we finally kind of got something like that this episode, where she says, you know, like, the RWBY's group, Team RWBY, and, you know, Juniper following her and all that, they were going to do this anyways, but they could definitely use Crow Bronwyn on their side. Like, just the way she said that just references that Crow is freaking this awesome badass huntsman who she used to look up to so much. Like Volume 3 when Crow was fighting Winter and she was like, that is my uncle. She was like freaking out, dude. She was like always looking up to Crow and thinking that he's like the most badass dude in the entire world. So like that hasn't been happening in Volume 6. It's like she hasn't thought that about Crow anymore. So this dialogue confirms that she does still think that Crow's this badass dude, and she wants to see him get back on track, man. She wants to see him, you know, actually still being that badass uncle that she has. So I really like that line from RWBY. I thought that was awesome. And the way that Crow looks at RWBY while she's, you know, ranting or just trying to bring morale to the group, it really reminds me of that look that Crow might have, you know, seen from Summer before. I really feel like they keep hinting at that. Like this is a similar type of interaction that we might have seen from Summer and Crow at one point when they were on a team. So that's freaking awesome. And then we have the Genlock memes because the robot is initiated. Caroline Cordova is freaking literal robot, man. That was pretty nuts. So yeah, everyone's memeing about the Genlock stuff because of that. If you don't know what Genlock is, it's a show that Rooster Teeth is coming up with. If you don't know who Rooster Teeth is, shame on you. But Rooster Teeth is the company that makes RWBY. So I hope there's nobody that doesn't know that. But hey, if you didn't know that, now you do. So Genlock is a new show they're making, and it's got like futuristic sci-fi mech kind of stuff going on. So that's why people are memeing Genlock with the RWBY stuff. So if you don't know, now you know. And it goes to show that Alice does indeed have some insane technology that we have yet to even know about. So who knows what else Atlas Tech might have in store for us that we don't expect down the road. This was definitely a big surprise. Never seen a freaking robot that big. Before this was just like the Paladins, and the Paladins look like ants compared to this thing that Caroline Cordovan had. So the next scene is Adam versus Blake 2.0. We definitely know that Adam lost his mask after all in Volume 6, or at the end of Volume 5, whatever you want to say, I guess. He like dropped the mask when he was defeated it and like going on his own way. So it was good that they actually stuck with the mask being gone, because that was an inconsistency that a lot of people were going to bring up if they didn't. So it's good that they did think about that, and he has this blindfold on instead, which definitely hints at him being blind, because well, you can't really see out of a freaking blindfold, even if it's made of really thin material. Trust me, and I do cosplaying, so I know how this works. You can get black material that's see-through if it's thin enough, but the problem is, dude, it still makes it really hard to see out of. Like, even if that's the type of material that Adam is using and he's not blind, bro, it's still really hard to see. It just makes everything dark, and like there's still like little lines from the fabric, and it's still very difficult to see. So if Adam is actually wearing that as a fashion statement and he's destroying his vision by like 80%, I'm freaking impressed. But I'm also like, Adam, what's wrong with you? Like, dude, maybe he really is blind though. So again, we had those leaks a few days ago, but I'm not going to talk about that. We'll see what happens with Adam. Basically though, expect this blindfold to fall off. It's pretty much guaranteed to fall off, like probably next episode, honestly. So we'll see. Yeah, I already talked about the potential Neo guard in the base, so just keep that in mind as well. Potentially Neo has infiltrated the Argus base for whatever it's worth. The only other weird thing I thought this episode was how Adam was like leagues above Blake. Okay, so the first fight we had of Adam and Blake was jobbing. She was really not trying hard at all because she didn't want to fight Adam. She was more just surprised to see him again, and she was really just, she did fire some shots with Gamble Shroud, and she did take a swipe here and there, but she was really just defending herself and trying to talk the whole time. She really was not fighting back in the first fight. This time, she actually was fighting back. She did take plenty of attacks at Adam. She was going pretty hard. She used her semblance multiple times and all that. But Adam just continued to speed blitz her, and basically Adam was stomping her this fight, and I'm just shocked. I'm like, dude, how is Adam so much stronger than Blake. I don't get it. Like, even if Adam's stronger than Blake, Blake has had official training and Adam hasn't at an actual academy. So, I mean, look, I will give Adam the benefit of the doubt and say, okay, maybe he's got more real life experience than Blake does because he's been in a lot of fights. But Blake was right by his side for a lot of that time. And when Blake left him, she was training at an academy that whole time. So it's not like Blake wasn't doing anything. So I don't know. I can give some benefit of the doubt and say Adam is stronger than Blake. Okay. But like to be so much more powerful than Blake that he's speed blitzing her and he's pretty much just stomping her the whole time, that's a little wonky to me. But plot convenience because Yang's obviously going to arrive and save the day maybe. We're going to get a rematch of Blake and Yang versus Adam. And honestly, I mean, I'm hyped for that, but also not so hyped because, dude, it's 2v1. Like, I don't know. I would much rather see Yang versus Adam 1v1 or Blake versus Adam 1v1. Like, Blake and Yang against Adam, like the two of them, I don't know, man. That just seems kind of unfair. But whatever. It is what it is, I guess. It's still going to be hype, and it's still probably going to be a good fight, but hey, maybe Yang won't show up, but come on, let's be honest. It seems like it's set up for that, especially with how Blake said, oh, you're not so good at being stealthy. Like, dude, Yang's probably just going to pop in there. But who knows? This is exactly how she lost her arm the first time, by just popping in there and not being stealthy. She was literally like, freaking fire, hitting her hands together, like jumping in there. And this is all before she even like got next to Adam, dude. She freaking yelled, made fire around her, like hit her hands together, like as obvious and telegraphed as you could, and came in with that right cross, and Adam just sliced her arm off. So if Yang enters the fight like really loud again, I'm gonna be like, dude, did you not learn anything from the first one? We'll see. It can play out any number of ways, but I mean, I'm pretty hyped for it. We'll see, man. We'll see. So that's really the end of the episode. I'm gonna end the review here, but overall, I think for a 10-minute episode, it was pretty strong, though it did have some glaring plot holes, which I'm like, I don't know about. But hey, it is what it is. I'm in this video here, guys. I'm gonna get to work, and then I'll see you for the review stream when I get back from work. So that's gonna be pretty hype. Hopefully, I get this video up like while I'm at work. Hopefully, it uploads. But we'll see. I'm gonna end it here, like I said, for the third time now. Thank you for watching, guys. I'll catch you next time. Peace.